Hi everybody, it's Thomas here from Thomas Fitzgerald Photography, and today I have something pretty cool to show you, and that is a preview of the next version of Luminar. So Luminar is an image editing program from what used to be called MacFun Software, but they've recently changed their name to Skylum. I'm probably not pronouncing that right, but anyway, so let's dive into it. So the new version is Luminar 2018, and it's a pretty significant change. So in this video, I'm just going to give you kind of a sneak peek at some of the new features. When I posted this video, it's been announced for pre-orders, but depending on when you're watching this, it may already be available. Okay, so I'm in Bridge at the moment, and I'm just kind of using this as a browser, and I am going to open some, I'm just going to open some files in Luminar and just kind of give you a quick overview of some of the new features and just basically show you around. I'm pretty impressed with it. It's quite cool. So without further ado, let's just dive in and show you what's new. So again, I've just picked this image kind of at random here, and I'm going to open it in Luminar. So I'm just drag and dropping it onto the dock. I can right click on in Bridge and go open with Luminar either if you prefer that method. Previously this had been Mac only, but they now have it for Mac and PC. So I'm using a Fuji RAW file here, so just kind of to give you an idea, they have dramatically improved the RAW processing. It also opens much faster. That used to take significantly longer. So one of the things when you bring it in first, the images are still a little flat, but they're substantially better than they used to be, but you can fix that easily enough. So I have set up my own kind of defaults here. So one of the things, the first thing to note is the interface has changed. So if you've used previous versions, you can see that the sliders and everything are different. Everything's kind of smaller and you can fit more in on the screen at one time, and it's neater. So the first thing to notice is this new raw develop section. So this gives you kind of your raw controls, and you also have options for lens corrections. So you can remove chromatic aberration, you can remove a vignette, and you can also remove distortion. And then the transform panel lets you do things like correct for perspective and so on. So set that back to 0. Okay, now one of the things to note is, unfortunately at the moment the lens corrections are not automatic, so you need to do it manually. For this image, this was actually shot with a Nikon lens on my Fuji X-Pro 2, so it was a 100mm macro lens, and it was actually very little distortion on it anyway. But if I zoom in here, you can see the detail is quite good. It's a little soft on this image because again this is a very old lens. However, they now have some new sharpening controls, which are pretty cool. So I'm just going to ramp up the sharpening here just to show you. I'm going to turn down the masking a bit. Now you're probably not really going to see much of this on the video, but the quality there is pretty good. There's also now, they have also changed the noise reduction method. In the previous version, it did noise reduction as a whole separate pass on a separate layer, and actually used to take forever. The new version is just added as a filter, and it's more or less real time, so I can just turn up the values like this. If you turn them up too far, it's actually very effective. So like if I was to do this, it's complete mush. So you don't need to do that. You need to keep it quite low. But anyway, so let me just zoom back out here now. So let me just kind of tweak this image and make it nice. So I'm just going to bring down the highlights. So the raw develop filter seems to behave a little differently from the tone filter, and I'm guessing that's because it's working off the original, it's working straight from the raw data. So, and we still have our accent AI filter here, which is kind of the magic fix everything on its own filter. And bring up that a little bit. So I'm going to add a few more things here, and let me just have a look at a few different things. This is one of the new ones which I kind of like. It's called Brilliance Warmth. So you have this control here called Vividness. So I'm going to bring that up. And as you can see, it makes everything quite vivid. It's not exactly the same as just ramping up the saturation. It seems to do some kind of algorithm to it, and it's quite nice, and I can warm it up as well, which is quite nice. So if I look at before and after, already that's a good bit better. The highlights are still clipping slightly. Okay, so then we can do things like, let me see, I can add some details enhancement. So we can just do this very carefully. Okay. And maybe a little bit of Orton effect on this. Just kind of soften everything off a bit. Now, one of the other new features that's kind of cool is you can add, you can now use LUTs with this. So there's a LUT effect filter, if I can find it. I'm still getting used to this, by the way. I haven't been using it that long. Okay, so LUT mapping. So I'm going to load a LUT file. So these are from the DLUTs collection, which is popular in video, and I'll include a link to it below. So I'm going to just pick this one because I used it before. So LUTs are kind of almost like having a whole Lightroom preset in a single file. Well, it just affects color, it doesn't affect anything else. So you have the option here to kind of turn the amount back down. Okay, so that's a really nice looking image, and again, there's before and there's after. And this was a raw file, and if I zoom in, you can see there's very little artifacting. There is some purple fringing going on here, and again, that is because I was using a very old lens with this shot, so don't just ignore that. So now to save out, we can save the file. So if you save it, it saves in its own format, which is a .luminar format. I think it's .luminar anyway. I'm not exactly sure the file extension. So call this house in the park. Okay, so that just saves. That will save all our settings and everything. And there's a history as well, so it saves the history with it as well. Okay, and to export it to like a JPEG or something, you just go export. And I'm just going to call this house in the park flat. I'll save it in the same place. So this just kind of processes the image out. Okay, so now that that's finished, I can just close this. Okay, so let me just look at another image. Let me pick something else. I'm going to go to a different folder. Okay, so this is kind of nice. Okay, so again, this is a image taken on a Fuji file, and this was the 35mm Fuji lens. So if I zoom in here, you can see, again, perfect detail. You can make out just the texture on these fake plastic flowers, and it's perfect. There's no artifacting, there's very little noise, and yeah, so as terms of raw conversion, this is pretty good. So let me just zoom back out, and again, as I said, they come in a little flat, but a few little tweaks and you have that back to looking great. So I mean, even just something as simple as turning up the accent filter, the kind of their artificial intelligence thing, but that might be a bit much. But you can also just even just turn up the saturation a little, and maybe a little bit of contrast. One of the things I found is you actually get better contrast by using curves, so it just gives you a bit more control over it. And then we can do something like, I like the Orton effect. I know some people think this is overdone, but I kind of like it. It just kind of blends everything together nicely. So again, I mean, this is just fairly straightforward. It's something simple, but as you can see, you get a quite a rich image, and the colors are really popping off the screen, so it's kind of hard to fault. From that respect, I mean, there are some issues, but I'm not really going to go into this. It's just a first look. So again, that's fine. I'm not going to save this because I've actually done this before. Now there's one other thing I wanted to show you. I need to go back to my other folder for this. So in fact, actually, before I get to that, let me just pick this shot. So again, this is just kind of stuff I shot in street photography, and again it was a 35mm Fuji lens, but I just want to show you one thing about this. Okay, so I've brought the file in and I'm just going to increase the saturation just a little bit. Okay, so I'll zoom in here, and as you can see, this kind of thing normally can sometimes give you problems with Fuji files. When you've got like very repetitive patterns like this, you can get kind of texture on the wire, but there's no kind of real issues here. Now I haven't put any sharpening on this either. This is just straight out of the camera, straight raw file conversion. You've got a little bit of purple fringing going on here, but again it's the 35mm lens shot wide open, so this is at f1.4, and yeah, so everything's pretty sharp. And that's before doing any sharpening. So if I have some settings here that I've saved as defaults, so I'm just going to apply these. Yeah, that's actually, I've turned that off because I don't need that. So that's with some of the sharpening controls turned up, and just give it a second. And as you can see, again, it's keeping all the detail and it's not really giving you any artifacts. It's probably very hard to make this out in the video, so apologies, you're just gonna have to take my word for it. But if I can turn the sharpening right up, you do start to get some artifacting on it, but again, it's pretty good. You can actually turn the sharpening up quite a good bit on this, but you don't get any of the kind of weird effects that you get if you turn sharpening up in Lightroom. I mean, it's increasing the noise alright, but again, I can turn the noise reduction up a bit. There's a lot of scope for experimenting here. As I said, I haven't really been using this much, so I'm not 100% certain on every possible setting so far, but it's definitely interesting. Okay, so let me just get rid of this. Don't need this. So there's one more cool thing I want to show you. Okay, so I'm going to use this shot. Okay, this'll do. Okay, so I'm going to open this in Luminar. Okay, so here's the file in. So before I show you what I want to show you, I'm just going to make this look a little better. And again, we'll start by using their magic filter, which 9 times out of 10 does exactly what you wanted to do. And I'm just going to add our nice new brilliance warmth to this as well. Just turn that up a bit and turn that up a bit. Okay, so the cool new feature is called Sunrays. Now this is kind of one of those things that you'd say, that's just a gimmick, but it's actually really cool. I don't know how they're doing this, but there's probably some kind of keying going on, but it actually works really well. So if I hit place sun center, I can drag this around, and as you can see, it's going from behind the trees. So it is obviously using some kind of luminance keying, based off the brightness value, but it's really well done. I have to give them credit for it. Again, as I said, it's one of those things you probably say to yourself, oh, that's just a gimmick, but if you've got a shot like this, you can actually use it to enhance existing sun rays, if you wanted to. Or you can be like on an alien planet with 2 suns. But yeah, so again, it is kind of gimmicky, I suppose, but I kind of like it. It's actually pretty cool, but not for this. So I'll turn it back off because it's actually pretty good as it is. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. One other thing, so if you want to add a new adjustment layer, here's a preset I made earlier, with a whole bunch of stuff on it. So that's obviously way too much, but I can turn this down. I mean, this isn't new, this was always in Luminar, but I'm just kind of showing you the kind of things you can do. Maybe a bit more. It does start to slow down when you have loads and loads of filters on it. Like, so I have 2 layers here worth of filters. So it does slow down a little bit, but it maintains interactivity the whole time. So that's pretty good. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm recording this and I'll be posting this on November the 1st, which is when pre-orders become available, and I will have the link in the details below. If you follow that link, that will help us out because we're on their affiliate program. And also I have a full blog post about this as well, so I will also have that link below, and I'll probably embed this video in the blog post as well, so you can see it there. And I hope you've enjoyed this. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to check out our Patreon page where we have exclusive stuff as well. Okay, so thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Thanks a million.